Hi, welcome to my little tank build tour of my Saint Chamond tank. People kind of liked to see this tank, which I think is pretty cool because it's kind of an underrated tank that I feel like is not acknowledged very much because it was kind of important in as far as tank construction went, early tank construction. So I think that it would be kind of fun to kind of show this around and see a little more. So if there's anyone out there who wanted to see more of this build, I was going to feature a little bit more of it so that if you wanted to see some more angles or how it all came together, I figure there's people out there who's like, don't want to listen to this guy talk about like every idea behind it. But at the same time, you know, you're free to mute this video if you just prefer to see angles of the tank. But I wanted to explain just a little bit about it, kind of do what I did in my other build tours, because this particularly was very, very tricky to build. I had a viewer comment on a video that was like, man, she looks like a beast. And I was like, yeah, she was a beast to build as well. So I figured it might be kind of fun to do sort of a walk around and just get another good look at it, because it's a build that I'm extremely proud of. It took a very, very long time, a couple of months to put together. And on the side note, the actual tutorial builds this, I didn't bother to do commentary, so they're kind of dry. But if anyone else cares to kind of hear about how I put this together, or where the idea came from, you're like, I'm glad that you're here. So this is it. This is my Lego build of the Saint Chamond tank, which was, I want to say it was I believe it was the second tank built by the French in the First World War. And there's a couple different variations of this tank, actually, as I was looking out. There were some that had flat roofs. There were some that had circular sort of towers here on the end. There were some that even had towers on the back ends. You could drive it backwards. And different kind of shapes at the front to mild changes to that area. So I thought that it would be kind of fun to explain kind of where I ended up and the things that I had, because it has very iconic shapes and it's very, very specific. So I think at least I would hope that maybe one person at least would see this and go, oh man, that's the Saint Chamond tank. And it's not like just some random, thing I put together that's kind of all over the place, because it was very, very tricky to build. And I would hope that maybe some of that, like the complexity would be recognized, at least for myself, because I love looking at this tank. I'm glad that I built it. I think it looks very good at least in perspective of what I could do with Legos. So yeah, I'll start here with the wheels. The wheels were tricky actually because they're two different sizes. I used two different size gears, and I originally had both of the gears connected to one bar, so one Technic bar that went in between it, and they were connected to the same bar so that when the tank sat, it actually sat and tilted forward. And it didn't actually sit level on the ground. It meant that this very low-hanging sort of front piece would actually drag on the bottom. It was really tricky to figure that out. But actually, the wheels are independently connected so that one of them can be bigger and higher, and the other one can be smaller and lower. And it's cool because it kind of gives that same wheel vibe, but it's actually flat on the bottom, so the treads sit flat, which is cool. I didn't bother with a whole lot of extra detail right there. I know that it's kind of the whole Caterpillar tracks were kind of a complicated thing right here, and there were a bunch of extra wheels and stuff, but I really didn't want these treads to get caught, so I kind of went ahead and just did them somewhat straightforward. The walls are fun because I considered doing panels, but that was going to be really complex and a lot of complex sort of connecting details. So I did just castle walls. They're single brick thick. They're castle walls. They look nice. I added a little bit of thing here for detail. Here's the door. The door opens. It's not really to a specific minifigure height, but a minifigure could climb in and out of that if they had to. It's on the right side. I had to check some pictures, but I figured that out. And it closes fairly nicely too. I actually, when I was originally building this, I had it on the wrong side because I hadn't checked, but the hinges was on the other side. So I actually had to pull it apart after I had made it and redo it, and make sure that they were nice and stiff and stuff. The actual tank, like the original tank, had 4 Hotchkiss machine guns. And I will explain why I omitted one on the front here, but these are fun. I made them with backwards headlight bricks so that you could rotate them, which actually is pretty interactive and fun. And you can even connect minifigures on the other side of them to the inside. It kind of drags them around if you push this, but if not, you can still pose them and they might look fun in a stop-mo. If anyone asks, I do not have plans for stop motion as of now, but it might be a kind of a fun idea. I made one in the back too that had a similar port that sticks out a little too far. I think it's okay. It doesn't turn though naturally because it's I I would have liked it to, but it was kind of a complicated build. I used sort of an L brick here that was kind of a complicated piece to come by. And then I used like a star decoration for the Saint Chamond star, which is fun. But this back was it's actually surprisingly straightforward as far as how it came together. I have pretty high standards, at least personally, for the things that I build. So I want to make sure that they're usable. So I actually made mine open up, as you may have seen in the actual tutorial of the thing. But I made mine open up, and all of the detail, like the interior detail, is real too. So I could have just filled it with bricks. It would have been a lot easier for the outside to do angled roofs and things. And angled slates, but I just, I've seen a lot of them that are solid brick inside, and I wanted to kind of be the one maybe that would stand out and it would be fun to play in. Because you could ultimately build this if you have any interest. I do have videos for it on my channel if anyone has interest. I thought they were kind of fun, but they're a little dry. So I have extra shells in here. These are these gold cones that are for the 75mm field gun that is on the front of this thing, which is its main armament. And then I have this big like, I want to say it was like a tractor engine or something that was in this, but it's fun because it kind of it sits on it, and the pipes actually kind of line up to this exhaust pipe that goes all the way around the outside of this thing, which is kind of fun. Yeah, the interior was really fun to put together. You can actually pop this off. I made that this thing pops off kind of easily. It wasn't super intentional, but it was made to get people in and out, and you can actually fit a guy in the driver's seat, which is fun, and he has like a lever down there too. I wanted to make a driver's seat that lined up with the eye port, but I didn't end up doing our actual eye port. I ended up doing a fake one because it was too much work. And at least as considering like what I might have compensated to get other details right, I thought it was okay to not bother with that, because I think it looks okay. I was fine with that. And I did the French flag as well. Yeah, the opening up of it was something that was pretty critical to me. It was really important for me to make something that was actually worth playing with, not just a model, because it would be a lot easier to do that, but it still would... I think it's more rewarding to be able to have these sorts of layers to it. So the interior is all intentionally as it's supposed to be. Whoops, this goes in first. And it all fits together pretty nicely. I did the slanted roof variation of this tank. There were the earlier ones that had flat roofs, but the flat roofs would use to catch grenades and blow up in the top of the tank. And now that's not specifically why I made mine slanted roof. But the flat roofed ones were some of the older models, and they had circular towers. Now I made a square tower here for this hatch, and the flat roof ones came with circular towers, and I couldn't think of a way to make a circular tower. So as complicated as it was to make a slanted roof, it was ultimately easier than making a circular tower and a flat roof. So it's okay. It's fine. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I did sort of a storage bit here. I absolutely love doing tank accessories. So I did a bunch of little pieces and stuff that would fit on the outside and look sort of like it's like this vehicle specifically was used for towing stuff. I even wanted to do a tow hitch on the back here for like a field gun, because it was kind of used as just a big war tractor, which I love that. I love that idea. So, and I don't know if they carried extra wheels. I like the idea of an extra wheel. I did some supplies there, and then I did the tools, which are classic on the outsides of tanks. So I thought that would be kind of fun. I don't know if they were historically like that, but I really enjoyed like trying to be imaginative and kind of imagine what kind of thing this would be used for. I heard that some of them actually were made watertight and used as like amphibious vehicles and used in muddy spots and things like that. Ironically enough, I've heard that the treads were actually too short for the length of the body, as where you can well see, and it got stuck in holes a lot, which is kind of ironic. And I thought it would be, like everyone always makes like some very cliche tanks that are right on the nose, like, oh, this was super effective or this was super scary, and I was like, no, let's make one that's kind of dumb and it's funny looking, and it didn't really work well in war, but it was still a really fun build to do. So naturally, again, interactive features are kind of my deal. So I made moving guns, opening doors, all of the hatches open, which I won't bother to do every single one because that would be kind of a pain. But I made all of the doors open, all of them accessible to being opened, which is really nice. I was pretty happy with that as well. And this one opens as well, kind of the co-pilot spot. But on the front of this thing, it was by far the hardest part, the very, very complex. And I don't even think I didn't even get it exactly how the front of that tank looks like. But it's got this field gun that goes up and out, which I was pretty happy with. I was pretty happy with how it turned out. I would have made the tilt a little steeper though, like the pinpoint in which it turns a little closer to the front as opposed to back here, but I literally did not have any room. So it tilts up kind of funny, but it does pose, and it does, like, it fits in with everything else. So I thought it was, again, kind of like the eye hole, something that I kind of compensated for it to be nicer in other areas. So it tilts up kind of silly if you look at it like that. which I don't imagine it necessarily did that on the other one, but there is like a gap in here that it could move all the way up, and I might change that. That was kind of why I originally made the tutorials for my channel, is because I thought, oh, well, if I have tutorials for it, then I could pull this whole thing apart. I could put it back together, and if I say, oh man, this is a terrible idea, why did I do this? Or why did I change this really important thing that worked really well? Then I could go back and watch the videos and put it back together. So that was the original idea. Yeah, there's a bunch of different variations of this gun that I saw. I thought it was nice. I did kind of like the mud cutter on the bottom here, which I thought was cool. But yeah, I think these angles are self-explanatory, how well they fit together. I was really, really happy with how it turned out. It still sticks out a little bit, and there's gaps and things. I even used like a clip there for like a half block fill on this one, because it was just so unprecise. But it actually, I thought it turned out pretty nice. I was pretty happy with it, and in perspective of all things. Again, sort of compensating some things that were super complex for things that would work better overall. So there is supposed to be a machine gun port right here that's supposed to have a hole in it, but I literally, for all I was worth, could not figure out how to make a gun that was going to be like flush with that was going to stick out straight. And then again, with all my features, like it would be so much easier if this tank was solid, but it's not. Like all these guns have handles that are on the inside that a minifigure could hold. So there was absolutely no way that I could end up fitting a straight-ended gun that was at the same level, you know, as like these guns, as opposed to like how it all lined up with this thing. So I just omitted it. I saw some variations of this tank. Some of them had a hole here. Some of them had the port, but no gun. And I thought, you know what? I did very well on a lot of things in my opinion. And I was very happy about how all the shapes came together. So for this port to not have a gun, you know, that's going to be my one thing that I'm not going to bother with, because I made so many other shapes. But as far as the pictures go, I think it's cool. It looks kind of like the front of that tank. You see it sort of pitching over hills and stuff in photos. I think the shape is the front of this is really cool. It's really iconic, and I think it looks really nice. So I don't know. I was really happy with it. If I figured that, at least from my perspective, it would be cool to watch somebody who made something like this explain a little bit about it. So that's kind of what I'm just here and trying to do in this video. I'm trying not to make it tremendously boring, but if there are anyone who wants to see more of the tank, this is it. It's, again, pretty straightforward in perspective of like walls and stuff. It's just castle walls and things. It's pretty straightforward clip angles, as you may see in the build tutorials. But it's fun. It came together really well, and it was actually my original idea that inspired me to start making YouTube videos, because I wanted to find a way to record this build and really get it down into a place where I could even go back. Like, if people don't care, if they don't watch my videos, that's fine. It's not really going to bother me. But I could go back ultimately and pull this whole thing apart, get all the pieces out, and then like find all the stuff, put it back together within reference to my videos. So that was the original idea. That's why those are a little bit boring to watch. But apparently people really liked to see my tank. I have quite a few views on some of those videos, so I appreciate, you know, if you went and watched those. I'm not asking anyone to watch them. You don't have to. That's no big deal. But at the same time, if you wanted to see more of this tank or how I put it together, and you watch those, then here's this. So again, I'm extremely proud of it. I think it looks a lot like the tank, at least as most as you can for Lego, a lot like the tank that I tried to make. And it's, like I mentioned before, it's a little weird, it's a little underrated, but in its own field, it's also kind of iconic, and it has a very specific shape. And it's a little bigger than I might have liked, but it's I like it. I think it's okay. And it's all, like I said, you can play inside. It's got fantastic room for, you know, being able to kind of explore that, and all accessible like engine pieces, or all accessible guns, or like even the gun end even moves up and down in the front of this thing. I don't know, I was just tremendously proud of how it came together. So if anyone cared to see more of it, this is it. So thanks for watching.